Welcome and thank you for joining our tonight's virtual town hall regarding Fall 2020 Return to Campus Plans. I am Keyshawn Coleman, your Student Government Association President for the 2020-21 academic school year, and I am proud to serve as the moderator for this event. Tonight, you'll hear from the Division of Student Affairs and other members of university leadership on topics related to university operations for this upcoming fall, and the various measures they are implementing to keep us all safe. Additionally, they will answer many of your questions that we have already received. Thank you to those who have submitted questions in advance for this event. Please keep in mind a few protocols for tonight. Video has been turned off for everyone except for the panelists. This means you will be only able to see the panelists throughout the town hall. All attendees have been muted to help the program move smoothly without interruption. For those that did not get a chance to submit questions beforehand, you will be able to submit questions during the event using the chat feature. For those on Facebook Live, please submit your questions through the commenting feature. If we are unable to get to your questions tonight, please submit them to NCCU Life at nccu.edu and we will send you a response. This evening's town hall will also be recorded and posted to NCCU Life's YouTube page to rewatch at a later time. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce the Vice Chancellor of the Division of Student Affairs, Dr. Angela Coleman.
Good evening, fellow Eagles, and thank you for joining us tonight. Today's virtual town hall is designed to share our current fall 2020 reopening plans with you. Special shout out again to those of you who submitted questions in advance of today's town hall. Your questions will guide the format for today's presentation. The goal of today's town hall is to begin to welcome our new Eagles to the nest and to help our returning Eagles acclimate to some of the campus changes that you will see this fall. Again, as President Coleman said, we encourage those who did not get a chance to submit questions beforehand to use our chat and comment features in the WebEx. Please know that while some questions cannot be answered at this time, we will continue to do our best to provide you with clear answers as well as any updates to our fall operating plans. This evening's virtual town hall is the first of several town halls to introduce our plans for reopening and our protocol to keep all members of our Eagle family safe. The health and safety of our Eagle family is and will continue to be our top priority. So before we begin, I want to take a brief moment to personally thank the many members of the NCCU faculty and staff for their hard work these past months and service on our various fall continuity of operations subcommittees. I'd also like to take an opportunity this time to welcome our panelists for this evening's town hall and thank them for joining us this evening. So this order that I'm going to introduce these panelists will be the order that they will be presenting this evening. First, we have Dr. Kristen Long-Witter, who serves as our Director of Environmental Health and Safety. Next, we have Dr. Mari Ross Alexander, who serves as the Assistant Vice Chancellor of Student Health and Wellness. Next, we have Mr. William L. Clem II, Assistant Vice Chancellor of Student Engagement and Leadership. Mrs. Joy Hartfield, our Assistant Vice Chancellor and Dean of Students. Dr. Yolanda Anderson, Interim Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. Mr. Tim Moore, Director of Business and Auxiliary Services. And last, but of course not least, Dr. Ingrid Wicker-McCree, our Director of Athletics. So without further delay, let's begin.
Dr. Long, you're ready to go.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. So good evening, everyone. I have not had the chance to meet many of you, but I did get a chance to meet a few students before everything. And I'm looking forward to everybody coming back and staying safe and carrying on in this new world we find ourselves in. So I'm the Director of Environmental Health and Safety. And I'm going to just talk to you very briefly about some of the things that we've put in place across campus to really stay in line with the CDC guidance, as well as make sure that we're adhering to our local ordinances that we find ourselves under. So I'm going to introduce this tool, and this will be how I frame what I'm going to tell you. This is called the hierarchy of controls, and it's a tool that we use when we talk about risk and how to control that risk. And you can see that it's an inverted pyramid. So the most efficient way to control risk is at the top of the pyramid, and that's eliminating it, and that's physically staying away from whatever the risky issue is. In this case, that would be COVID. Substitution means that you replace the hazard. That is not really a feasible control that we have for this because we can't replace it with something we'd rather deal with. So we're going to talk about engineering controls, administrative controls, and then PPE. And we're going to talk about two kinds of PPE. So both community protective equipment, or CPE, which is a term you may have been hearing recently. These are things like face covering. So these are items that you wear that protect the rest of the community. And then personal protective equipment are items such as gloves that will protect you from any risk you come in contact with. So that's where we're going to start, and I'll just take you through the next slide and talk a little bit about some of the things that we have in place. Okay, so this is probably the thing you've heard the most over the last 3 months, but cover your face. North Carolina is now under a statewide face covering order, and that is also going to be in place on the NCCU campus. We will be requiring face coverings at all times in campus buildings. We do have some allowances for that in private rooms and residence halls. You will see a lot of new signage when you come back. So these are some of the signs that you're seeing over here. We have a mask awareness sign, elevator safety, and then the practicing of social distancing. We did start placing these signs today, so we're excited for everyone to see those. Don't just drop in. We have a lot of offices that have traditionally worked on a drop-in policy that we're just not going to be able to do that anymore because we don't have the space or the personnel to keep people safe. So what we're asking is that a lot of groups move towards a policy where they require appointments, and we are still working on exactly how that's going to lay out. Washing your hands is besides wearing a face covering, washing your hands is the best thing you can do to protect yourself. We all touch many things during the day, and washing your hands as often as you can, using hand sanitizer. So we are increasing the number of hand sanitizer stations on campus. We will also have some personal hand sanitizer that will be available. And we'll be putting up signage in the restrooms and different areas to remind people that it does require a 20-second hand washing to be effective. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces. So we are making sure that we have sufficient disinfectant supplies and personal protective equipment such as gloves for using those supplies. So we'll be able to distribute those. Now this is going to be in addition to the uptick in housekeeping that you will see. So Director Blake Reed will touch base on that, but we will have products available across campus so that you can feel comfortable and disinfect a space before your desk or whatever it is before you go into it. And then just basic hygiene, such as covering your cough or sneeze with a tissue, making sure that goes in the trash, and again, washing your hands before you touch your mask. These are just some really simple but really important things that you can do. And that's really all I have because I wanted to save the most time for questions. So you are welcome to reach out to me. That is my office phone number. We have a general EHS at NCCU email address that we'll take any COVID questions on as well.
Hi, Eagles. I am Dr. Mari Ross Alexander, ABC for Student Health and Wellness. And, my job is to make sure that you are physically, mentally, medically, and academically well while you're on campus. It's been challenging times. We're really eager to have you back on campus, but it really is going to require all of us working together to follow the recommendations of all these panelists to make that happen. So I'll go over how we're going to get that done. Next slide. So COVID testing, tracing, and surveillance. This is kind of the topic that most of you guys have asked me about. And what we are going to do is we're going to have you complete a daily electronic health screening. So every day on your MyEOL, there will be a place for you to answer the questions about your health. If you answer those in a no format, you could go on to class and do all the things that you have been doing. If you answer no to those questions, then you're going to have a follow-up screening with student health to make sure that you're okay. These health screenings will be monitored by Apex Solutions. They are a third-party vendor, meaning they're an outside company that are going to vet all of these screenings on a daily basis. Now, Apex will work directly with student health to make sure that the questions are answered in a timely manner, that you'll get feedback very rapidly to determine whether you need to be tested or not. So we are prioritizing our testing with the following categories being primary, meaning so anyone can get a test. That's not a problem. However, as we look through the screenings and we look to see who's going to get those tests, these are the groups that we're going to be looking at. So if you have symptoms, you have a cough, difficulty breathing, then absolutely you're going to be tested. If you've been in close contact with someone who is tested positive for COVID, you'll be tested as well. Our student athletes, most of you all know that you have a different requirement in testing. We'll make sure that you're tested in regular intervals determined by your sport or the governing agency of the NCCU. Medically vulnerable students, those who have underlying conditions, they'll be prioritized for testing. Students that are participating in health profession and education programs that have clinicals or any kind of field work outside of our campus with high-risk populations, you will be prioritized as well. And then if you're coming from an area of high-rate transmission, you may also be asked to take a test at that time. So as I said before, Apex Solutions is our third-party vendor, and they will provide some COVID testing. Well, they will provide all of our COVID testing, I should say, and tracing. So tracing is if there's a positive, we have to follow up with all the people that come in contact with that particular positive person, and so they will look into into that, making sure that all of those folks are contacted and tested if needed. So one of the big questions is, what happens if I have a positive test? So we have the capacity at this point to quarantine and isolate you all, and then we will follow up with a daily call from student health to monitor your health care, as well as some calls from the Dean of Students Office to make sure that you have all the things that you need while you're isolated away from the rest of campus. And once that isolation is over, you go back to your residence and we start all again. All positive tests will also be reported to Durham Public Health Department. NCCU has a team of folks that monitor all of the happenings on campus, the PERT team, and so they will also be notified, and any other agency that we have to notify at that time. But you will also know what those agencies are that get that information. So how do we get all this done? So right now, you know that we have one student health clinic that takes care of all of your medical care. In our realignment plan, we are going to divide the student health clinic into 3 clinics. A respiratory clinic that will take care of any kind of COVID-related respiratory symptoms, a non-respiratory clinic that will care for you if you have an injury or any other kind of illness that's not related to a respiratory issue, and then a wellness women's clinic. Now, this is the clinic that most of you guys have used on campus. This is where students come for their contraceptive care. They may have a physical or immunization. So we're trying to make sure that all 3 of these clinics run separate and isolated from each other, so we do not cross-contaminate any students with students that may have some issues around COVID. Student accessibility services. So if you have a disability that you need more access to get to your classes, then you will go through what we call SAS, or Student Accessibility Services. You can read the screen. I won't read all the words on there, but basically you need to go to Eagle Accommodate to make your request. From there, they will ask you for your documents. Once your documents are submitted, you will be granted an interview to talk about how do we make these accommodations happen. you will have those accommodations within 7 business days as long as all your documentation is together. Now with COVID, we know that there's going to be some additional type of accommodations that need to be made. We're asking that you still go through Accommodate just like you have before. If you have not been to Accommodate before, we can show you how to do that so that you can get those accommodations made. Professors will not be making accommodations in the classroom for classroom accommodations. They will also refer you back to SAS to get those accommodations completed. And the Counseling Center. So the Counseling Center is currently operating telehealth appointments. They've done that since March the 13th when we all went home for this semester, and they will continue to do so. So the same way that you've been able to access care will remain. You call the Counseling Center to initiate your appointment. They will, and we will conduct all of those appointments through telemedicine. They still will be on campus. So our Counseling Center staff will still be in their offices, but they will meet with you through video, so on WebEx at this point. And we still have crisis available, so there's still counselors to come out and tend to a crisis situation. So we're still here. We're just not going to be seeing students face-to-face for those counseling appointments. Campus Rec. So Campus Rec is a very fluid situation. So we do determine how and when we're going to have students in the Campus Rec based on what the state guidelines are. So currently, the Campus Rec facilities will open on August the 24th, but there still will be limited facility usage. Reservations will be required to use machines. There's a max capacity of 40 people in the site at any one time. We're not using lockers or showers at this point, so unfortunately you would have to take a shower someplace else, but those facilities are going to be closed. Group exercises will not be where they have been in the past in the dance rooms. They will be held in the gym so that we can do social distancing and still allow you to participate in those exercises. We will not have contact sports this fall, and that does include basketball. I know we have a lot of students that like to participate in basketball, but at this time it's just not a safe activity. We will have some online activities, some virtual activities for you to participate in, and as we can add these things back, we absolutely will. We will have the basketball courts open at a one-person capacity, that type of thing, but as far as any kind of group activities, we will not be doing that. And we are also asking that everyone who is going to use the fitness center enter through the external door at the fitness center. I know that some folks like to enter all the type of doors to get into Walker. If you're coming to the fitness room, we're asking you to, the fitness center, we're asking you to come in through that one fitness door. So we're really excited about you guys coming back. I know there's lots of rules and regs to get us back on track, but your safety and your health is way more important to us than a little bit of inconvenience by how we're going to get it done. So thank you for your time.
Good evening, Eagles. My name is William Clem, and I'm going to speak to you about residential life and student engagement. For residential life, we plan to resume full operations. Considerations to decrease the risk of exposure within campus housing include the following. Students with pre-existing health conditions will be given single occupancy rooms. Roommates and suite mates will be considered as a family unit. So in other facilities, so let's say if you have a roommate, that's like being in the same space with your mother or your father or your brothers or sisters, but when you're outside of your rooms, you're expected to comply with social distancing and give 6 feet spacing. Reducing the numbers of residents in traditional residence halls. For those who don't understand, traditional residence halls are the residence halls where the restroom is down the hallway. Reducing the occupancy for community bathrooms while increasing cleaning and frequency. So those community bathrooms that our housekeeping staff has access to, they will be cleaning those on a regular basis. Frequent reminders about proper hand and hygiene, hand sanitation, and keeping your hands clean to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Visitation will be suspended for the fall semester with the exception of parents and guardians. So that, just for clarity purposes, that means that no one from off campus will be able to come to visit you. No one will be able to visit between Chisley and New Res. All visitation is suspended. Parents and guardians will be able to visit students. However, there will be a process, an appointment or sign-up process for that, because we need to track who's coming in on campus just in case there's an instance of COVID on campus. Social distancing footprints will be placed throughout the facility, and we will install desk shields or Dutch doors at specific locations to make sure that we're protecting the spread and, making sure there's limited breathing on each other. In common areas, we're going to require face masks. You'll hear that a lot throughout this entire presentation. Face masks are what we're going to be using all the time. We're going to limit the capacity in common areas such as computer labs and lounges and things like that, and we will have a reservation and check-in process. We do know that those spaces are very helpful for studying and getting away from the rest of the world, so we want you to still be able to use it. We just need to be able to track who's doing what. Reconfiguration of seating in common areas, as well as limiting the number of people in elevators. This is, again, so we can limit the amount of spread with the virus. We will be enhancing cleaning for all scheduled activities. So if there's a scheduled event that happens to take place in your residence hall, we will do everything we can to make sure that it's sanitized shortly thereafter. And lastly, we will be removing a lot of the high-touch items, such as, magazine racks, those pens that we like to just grab from the front desk and things like that. A lot of those things will be eliminated, all to prevent the spread of COVID virus. For fall move-in, those of you who will be living on campus, we are going to be going through a phased move-in procedure, similar to those of you who participated in the move-out process that we had a few weeks ago. We will have drop-and-go service so that students will have the opportunity to just come in, drop their stuff early, as opposed to having to deal with the normal, regular move-in rush. For the move-in process, students will have to register for a date and time for a move-in appointment. Move-in in the halls will be done by floors with a limit of 10 persons on one floor at one time. Students will be allowed to have one helper to assist. So you may come 5 deep in a car, but only one other person will be allowed to go into the residence hall with you. All individuals will need to complete a health screening in advance, so we will have a checkpoint at the Latham parking deck where you will go before you proceed to your residence hall, and we will complete the health screening there. You will be required to wear face coverings the whole time. The residence life staff has worked out a contactless check-in process, meaning you will not have to physically come in contact with any staff, and we will not pass you anything. Everything will be available to you for you to grab on your own. And as always, high-touch areas will be cleaned on a regular basis. Move-in this year, because of the scheduling process, it's going to take a lot longer, so the move-in process will begin August 4th and will continue all the way through August 23rd. First-year students and early arrival populations are scheduled to move in starting August 4th through August 14th. So if you're a first-year student or a transfer student moving on campus, you will be moving in during that time. Students assigned to George Street and Alston Avenue, those are our new residence halls that will be coming online. You will not be able to move in until August 17th through the 23rd. Students assigned to other residence halls will make appointments for move-in through that August 4th all the way to August 23rd period. So we will get those dates narrowed down, but there will be additional information coming out next week about the move-in process for you all. If you're a residential student, we do have a situation where there's potential exposure to COVID or someone is showing symptoms of COVID. We do have an isolation and quarantine protocol. Martha Street Apartments has been identified as the quarantine isolation location. Each room in the Martha Street Apartments has its own bathroom, and it will be stocked with the necessary items in there to maintain your health and sanitized space. We will have thermometers, sanitizing wipes, tissues, and things of that nature. Spaces will be labeled externally on the apartments to let people know that there's restricted access, and so no other people are accidentally walking in. Counseling services and the Office of Spiritual Development and Dialogue will be available remotely. We know this is going to be a tough time for anyone who's dealing with this isolation. We will have the necessary support in place to make sure that you're staying healthy mentally, physically, and spiritually. Transportation services will be made available to help you get to the necessary medical care as needed. Custodial and maintenance staff will be provided and will wear the necessary PPE while they're entering your spaces and helping you to maintain those spaces. Student engagement. Once you get on campus, what's going to happen on campus as far as events and activities that we want to participate in? We will be implementing social distancing protocol for all events and activities. That means we will have special seating requirements, RSVP requirements. We're going to be using Engage a lot more. So if you have not already downloaded your event pass, you need to do that now because reservations and attendance tracking is going to be required for all events. All of our events will be limited to currently enrolled NCCU students only. We will not be able to allow the public on campus for events and activities as we had in the past because of the potential spread. We want to make sure that you all are able to enjoy what events we are able to have without fear of spreading or being exposed to the virus as much as possible. Events will be limited as far as time periods because exposure, we're trying to minimize exposure as much as possible. Temperature checks. We will be checking temperatures at the door for every event to make sure that everyone is in the right minimal health requirements to participate. Hand sanitizing stations will be at all entry points. We will require face masks at all times for all events. For those who may not be able to fit in the event, because we understand with social distancing, the capacity at events is reduced drastically, we will have live streaming and recording opportunities or some other form of virtual participation so that even if you're not able to physically be in the space, you will have a very similar experience in having as much fun or as much education as possible that we can provide. The student union, we will be reopening the student union with a couple of guidelines. We will be redeploying our housekeeping staff in a way to make sure that we're sanitizing as much as possible. High touch areas, high traffic areas will be scheduled to be cleaned every 30 minutes or at least wiped down on some level using disinfectants. Hand sanitizing stations will be provided at all entrances to the building. We will require, again, face masks. Like I said, you're going to hear that a lot today. Social distancing footprint decals will be placed throughout the building just to remind you of how far apart. I know there's going to be a challenge, particularly in Chick-fil-A. However, we still have to maintain that social distancing. We will do everything we can to help and remind you of that. Desk shields and hands-free door openers will be installed throughout the building. We will have to adjust our capacities for all of our venues. For those of you who are in student organizations that use the student union for events and activities, we will have to reduce the number of people in those spaces. So please keep that in mind as you're planning for the fall. Limited seating capacity in the Eagle dining area. Again, we will have to reduce the number of seats available to reduce the likelihood of spread of the virus. We will do the same thing in our lounge areas. And we will have new guidelines and requirements as you work with our office, the Student Engagement and Leadership Office, for planning your events. In the bowling alley and the game room, we will limit the number of users in the spaces, and particularly for the bowling alley, there will be a limit of 2 persons per lane. We will make sure that the bowling balls are sanitized after every use. There will be the 6 feet of distancing as well. Game room will be limited to billiards players only, and that will be 2 people per pool table. We will not have a lot of space to accommodate spectators. So if you're there to play pool, we have you, we will take care of you. But if you're there to spectate, you will not be able to do that in this space. We will also make sure that the pool sticks are sanitized. For our video gamers out there, unfortunately, we will have to eliminate the video consoles for video game consoles this year. We will bring them back as soon as possible, but that's something that we cannot have at this time. And I will turn it over now to Dean Joy Hartfield.
Greetings, everyone. I hope that you all are well. And although I cannot see you, I'm so very excited to be speaking with you today. So as ABC Clem said, my name is Joy Hartfield, and I serve as your Assistant Vice Chancellor and Dean of Students. So today, I just wanted to kind of give you a rundown of some of the student services, the things that are available to you as you prepare to transition back here in the fall. So the Office of the Dean of Students serves as a resource and advocate for students as you navigate the day-to-day challenges of the college experience. So when you aren't quite sure where to start, staff in my office will help you get pointed in the right direction. So we're here as a support for you, here as an advocate for you, and here to help you navigate the day-to-day. So my team and I have many different roles and responsibilities on campus, but I'd like to highlight a few things that I think would be very helpful during this challenging time, and as you know, everyone works to navigate this COVID thing and overcome it as you continue to live normal life. So we have our transitions program, and so this program focuses on housing and food insecurity. So we proactively assist students with who are experiencing housing and food insecurity by assisting with immediate needs as well as long-term planning. So any students who are experiencing housing insecurity, meaning you don't have a permanent home or permanent residence, particularly as you would normally report to financial aid, for instance, let us know. We are doing a registration process so that we can begin the process of helping those students from day one and not just waiting until there's a break until you know we reach a point in the semester where it's time to move out when we have to address those issues. We want to be helping you along the way. So if you are facing that type of challenge, please let us know. Register with us and send an email to the Dean of Students at nccu.edu as you see on the screen. We also have our Transitions Pantry, where we have where we have different resources as far as food is concerned and personal care items as well for students. And so if you discreetly want to come pick some things up, we will make that happen for you. So we have all kinds of personal care items. We have groceries, we have non-perishables, we have things that are specifically for you, maybe in your res hall or that are easy for you to pick up. We have toilet paper. It's starting to be restocked in the stores now, but if you need some of that, we have that for you. And so you just let us know because everybody, you know, goes through a rough patch at times. And so as you go through any type of transition, we're here to be a support for you. So let us know. And so as far as that registration, to let us know if you're experiencing housing insecurity or food insecurity, you're able to go to the link that's listed on this page. We'll also make that information available to you after this program, after we complete this town hall, so that you know what that resource is. We're also launching our True Eagles program this fall. So True Eagles it stands for Transitioning, Reassuring, and Uplifting Eagles. And this program is designed to increase the likelihood of persistence for students who maybe don't have that support system. Maybe you don't have family or folks who can really encourage you as you transition to school, or if you're transitioning back into school. And so we pair you with mentors, folks who've been trained to be advocates for you, folks who want you to be successful and who can help coach you along the way. And so we're basically pairing you with somebody who can be a support and your cheerleader as you work towards graduation. And so if you're interested in that program and being paired with someone and having additional one-on-one attention from someone who wants to be a support and from us, please let us know. You are able to fill out this form that is on the screen as well for that program, and we'll be happy to assist you. So in general, if you encounter a difficulty and don't know where to start, or would simply like to learn more about the resources available for you, as I said earlier, these are just a few of the things that we have available, but we work day in, day out to make sure that we do everything to help you be successful. So let us know. Reach out. I'll be happy to talk with you. The rest of the team, we'd be happy to talk with you. We want you to be safe. We want you to be successful, and we want you to have the best experience possible. So reach out. Let us know what we can do to help you, and we're excited, so excited that you'll be joining us again in the fall.
Good afternoon, everybody. As you can see from the slide, I'm Yolanda Anderson, Interim Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. And in the next few slides, I will be answering some of your questions about how our courses will be delivered. And I'm seeing some more of them pop up in the chat. Next slide, please. So, a lot of what you want to know, how are courses going to be delivered? We're going to have 3 instructional delivery modes. First is online, second is hybrid, and third is face-to-face. As a target, we will have a minimum of 50% of our classes online. And keep in mind that even though these classes will be online, some of them will be synchronous, which means the classes will be online, but it will meet at the same time as the original face-to-face class would have met. Others will be asynchronous, which means they won't have a fixed meeting time, but as a student, it's important for you to be aware of all the deadlines and make sure that you don't miss the deadlines associated with assignments, assessments, and everything. You already know that there's some Saturdays and a couple of weekdays, I think it was fall break, that have been added to the instruction calendar so we can meet the UNC system requirements for instruction. On those days, instruction will be asynchronous, which means you won't have class at the regular meeting time. And if you want to know why, I give the example. For example, I might have a Wednesday, Friday class at 1 o'clock and a Tuesday, Thursday class at 1 o'clock. And if my instructor is requiring that I be present for that 1 o'clock class, or they're going to quote unquote ding me, we're putting you in an impossible situation. So having asynchronous instruction on those days avoids that problem. So what does hybrid look like? What does hybrid instruction look like? There are many formats, and I've listed just a few examples. For example, an entire class can meet X days, X times for every X, Y weeks. Students can rotate such that 1/3 of the class comes on Monday, another third comes on Wednesday, and another third on Friday. And at those times when you're not physically in the class, you're in what I call the virtual classroom. Some people can have it so that during each class day, some folks physically in the class and some folks virtual classroom at the same time. Next slide. So, a lot of face-to-face classes. It's very important to know that classes get reduced to 40% of the original and max of 50%. And this capacity is going to be a driving factor in where classes were located. So if you check the schedules, it may be that your class was in this building at 1 o'clock. It may have moved to another location in order to accommodate that class size. In each classroom, some seats will be designated as off limits. It will be clearly marked that you can't sit here or you can't get a seat on this row. We are determined that we are going to observe 3 to 6 foot social distancing between students and student and faculty. And that's one of the rationales for having those off-limits seats in the classroom. A seating chart will be required. I know you say, well, I haven't done that since elementary school. Well, we're going to go back to elementary school for the purpose of COVID-19, and we'll have to have seating charts, and your faculty members will have to keep attendance, basically because this will facilitate contact tracing if needed. This is very important. You've heard time and time again that masks and face coverings will be required in the classroom and across the campus. Somebody asked a question in the chat about how would we ensure? Well, the bottom line is that if you don't comply with that, you will be violating the student conduct. Faculty members will have a statement in their syllabus about the requirement for wearing a mask, so you will be well informed throughout. Each classroom will also have hand sanitizer and wipes available in the classroom. And the next slide. So each course section will have the syllabus in Blackboard or other online learning platform. For the most part, undergraduate courses will be in Blackboard. There will also be an alternative syllabus that your faculty member, your instructor has to put in place just in case we had to do a rapid transition to online instruction as we had to do in the fall. There will also be requirements for other course content in Blackboard or the other platform. So in terms of internships, whether or not you have to go to internships, practica, field experience, to student teaching, etc., basically if the participating or host site is open, you are expected to go. I will add, though, that one of the documents the Office of Legal Affairs has developed for us is what I called an informed consent or acknowledgement of risk document that you have to sign as a student in one of those types of classes, acknowledging that there is a risk, a potential risk associated with working at a host site. For example, if you're in a nursing program and you're going to Duke Hospital for your clinics, those types of things. But it's also something else. If it's an unfortunate event where you are quarantined, you will still have access to instruction. And if need be, ITS or someone else will give you a Chromebook to use if you don't have it. So the bottom line is that if you are quarantined, and we don't want anybody to be quarantined, but if a student is quarantined, we will make sure that they can keep up with instructions. So the faculty have been doing a lot of work in preparation for the fall semester, and I'm going to punt to Dr. Kimberly Pfeiffer-McGee to bring you up to speed briefly on some of the things that faculty have done.
Good evening, Eagles. Just wanted to take a moment to let you know that the NCCU Office of E-Learning has been working diligently with our faculty to provide training and resources to prepare them for the fall 2020 semester, especially for those courses that are moving to the online format. So part of what we are working with our faculty on is communicating success and how to make sure that they are communicating effectively with the students, and often setting expectations at the beginning of the course. All of this information should be available inside of your Blackboard shell through your syllabus and or announcements. So it will be very important for you to log into Blackboard on a daily just to check your announcements and to see what information your faculty have provided. In addition, we're working to help them develop instructional materials to help add any type of multimedia, supporting resources, any type of engagement activities, and also cleaning up any PDFs or adding links and textbook readings there, anything that can help you as a student be successful in your course this semester, in the fall semester. A big part of our training involves engaging learners, so developing discussion sessions, wikis, and those types of things to make sure that you are having the student to student as well as student to faculty engagement that is needed for you to successfully complete your courses. So we are looking forward to this semester. More information will be provided at a later date to help you with if you need to contact anyone in the Office of E-Learning for assistance or the Blackboard office for assistance with any of those tools. Thank you.
Mr. Moore, it's your time, sir.
Yes, good evening, Eagle family, and we certainly welcome you to this town hall important meeting. We're very appreciative of you taking the time out and joining us for this town hall meeting. I'm very appreciative of this opportunity that's been afforded us of just sharing with you some information regarding some of the things that we have done and some of the plans that we've made as we prepare for your return back to campus. First and foremost, your health and safety is important to us, so We have been looking at a number of things, and of course, the things that we've been doing, we're going to continue to do those things, but at the same time, we're going to just put a different kind of spin on it and be more careful and more cautious about how we do things. Not necessarily that we won't do things, but making sure that as we're delivering goods and services to you, that we don't compromise your health and your safety. I do want to share with you this particular slide. It kind of tells you, I won't go through all of it, but it shows you all of the areas that Business and Auxiliary Services is responsible for, and all of the units that fall under Business Auxiliary Services. But more particularly, I wanted to zero in on a new area that we have basically opened up, a new operation. It's the Passport Service Office, and we wanted to make sure that you are aware. I know that there are a lot of restrictions to that now, but as those restrictions are lessened and it becomes a better time for doing some kind of travel internationally, then just know that we have an office on campus that provides that service. But next slide, please. And of course, one of the things that we wanted you to know is that we will be implementing the following procedures and protocols to ensure the safety of all our customers, our employees, and our stakeholders. All the customer-facing areas will take place at the reception desk or counter, which will be enclosed with a plexiglass barrier, and that's for your protection as well as the staff member. Signage will be placed by all customer queue-up lines and high-traffic areas to signal one-way and directional aisles using arrows. And of course, the number of patrons, as Mr. Clem made mention of, in any service unit will be limited to ensure social distancing. So Business Auxiliary Services will be basically, there will be admittance allowed in the Business and Auxiliary Service units, and while admittance has been allowed, it will require that all stakeholders, including employees, wear face coverings. Also, all persons entering the area will require temperature checks upon entry to determine overall wellness. And then all areas that operates as touch points, counters, tables, etc., will be sanitized and gloves replaced by staff members, of course, every 30 minutes. Next slide, please. While we are elated to have our constituents, you returning to campus, campus dining will offer a phased approach to service offerings. They will basically be keeping at the forefront health and safety protocols, making sure that they are in line with the CDC recommendations as well as the local and state governments. And this means that as overall stance on COVID-19 and its direct implications continue to change, so will our operational structures. So there's going to be some operational structures that will change as we go along. They're not going to be so rigid because it depends upon how things are occurring, whether or not it will be something that would remain in place. But basically, we're saying this is going to be basically a fluent kind of plan that where we'll be flexible and we will make the applicable adjustments as we need to. And then, of course, we will move in steps towards a new normal that safeguards everyone's health while allowing campus activities to resume. And the phased approach will enable our dining team to proactively support each level of this transition with appropriate tools and techniques that strictly follow, again, local, state, and federal guidelines. Next slide, please. In general, we want to just let you know that our staff, Eagle Dining Services staff, obviously will be equipped with PPE equipment, personal protective equipment. Hand washing will be obviously occurring. team member health issues. Things will be put in place to ensure the health of those persons serving. Food safety will be at the forefront. Sanitizing and disinfecting will be ongoing. Social distancing measures. So when you come into the dining hall or go into the retail dining locations, you will see signage and you'll see arrows. You'll see signage that's reminding people of the 6 foot apart. And of course, the Eagle Dining Service will also be called upon in the event that someone is quarantined. That team will be the one providing the food to that particular resident hall that's been set aside to accommodate those persons who may be under quarantine. And of course, technology, we'll be looking at technology to the degree that we can to help obviously mitigate some things and also move some things along. And then also we will have carry-outs and prepackaged options being made available. Next slide, please. So basically, as the health and safety protocols, there will be plexiglass barriers that will be installed at all stations. All stations will have plexiglass barriers. Even the checkout, when you come into the main dining hall, you will see plexiglass barriers up there, as well as throughout the stations that are stationed inside the dining hall. Masks, as has already been stated, will be required for all employees, customers, and visitors. And of course, masks may be removed only when sitting down to consume food on site, if applicable. Temperatures will be taken of every employee, customer, and visitor prior to or upon entering the building. We talked about social distancing. There will be traffic patterns. We would ask you to follow the signage that you will see on the flooring. And of course, locations will be utilized, separate entry and exit doors where possible. Occupancy in all locations will be limited to 50% of the permitted occupancy. This number will include employees, customers in line, and customers dining where applicable. And I mentioned earlier, all surfaces will be sanitized every 30 minutes, as well as the tables. And of course, all employees, customers, and visitors will be required to use hand sanitizer upon entering the building. There will be sanitizer stations positioned at all the entrance points and throughout the dining hall that we would ask that everyone take advantage of. And also, you will be required to do hand sanitizing upon your entry into the building. Next slide, please. Now, some of you are probably wondering, well, how will things operate within the dining hall? And of course, just so you know, we are looking at setting up some remote stations throughout the campus. We've already identified another location, a remote location that we'll be setting up on the other side of the campus that will allow compensate for the reduced capacity of the dining hall, since we'll be having limited seating. Obviously, we need to make food more accessible and make our locations and dining areas more accessible. We'll tell you that food trucks will be very prevalent on our campus. Branch Street will obviously have food trucks, and we will also be looking to put food trucks where the old Chitley building was, where it's going to be called the Chitley Greens, once it's a green area, once they are finished with it. And so there will be a food truck there. And again, there will be a remote distribution location on that side of campus as well that would help us. And again, the key here is that seating capacity will be based on CDC recommendations. It may be reduced or eliminated in the dining hall. Tables will be spaced to allow for social distancing where applicable. And with limited seating capacity, carryouts will be encouraged and strongly recommended. And if seating based on CDC recommendations, if seating is eliminated, then our only mode of getting food to our students and faculty and staff will be a way of carryouts, and it will be at that point in time required. In all stations, you will find something a little different this time when you come in. All stations will be staff served. It will not be a station where you can just pretty much self-serve or serve yourself. It will be staff served. It will be staff with a staff member, and that staff member will obviously give you whatever you're asking for, whatever entree or whatever you're asking for. They'll basically put it on your plate for you, and of course that again is in support of COVID-19 and taking the necessary health and safety precautions we need to not only protect you, but also protect others as well. Some other things you need to know about. One very exciting thing you need to know about while you've been home, sheltering in place and being safe. We've been working hard here. Our contractors and facilities management, our Eagle Dining Service Manager, Business Auxiliary Services, we've all been working tirelessly to complete the construction of a full-scale Starbucks, one of the flagship Starbucks. In fact, it will be the largest Starbucks that you will see in the college industry in terms of the size of it on our college campuses. And so we will have a Starbucks that will be opening up in August, and it has nice patio outdoor seating. And of course, the outside and inside seating will be reduced, however, to allow for social distancing and occupancy requirement. Again, this is full scale, top of the line in terms of that new service you'll be taking advantage of. And then, of course, with Chick-fil-A is requiring that we take a couple of registers offline in order to maintain social distancing and occupancy requirement. And so that we will be obviously adhering to that requirement. And then there will be new traffic patterns that are being established to maintain social distancing while in line. And at Subway, there will be new traffic patterns also that will be established to maintain social distancing and to compensate for the single entry door. And then with the convenience store, there will be a new entry door that's been established to maintain social distancing. And again, there will be adequate signage that will guide you in that area. Next slide, please. And lastly, I'm sorry for taking so long, lastly, and I kind of let the cat out of the bag earlier, to our students, to our faculty, to our staff, and to our alumni. Again, we're going to be opening up a flagship Starbucks, fully licensed Starbucks, will be located at Shepherd Library. And also students, we have heard you. You've been asking about the pizza. You've been asking about the wings. And I'm happy to say and announce that our Pizza Hut that was located in the lower level of the student union is returning back to our campus, and it's going to be opening up in the lower level of the W.G. Pearson Dining Hall, where you can resume your pizza eating, your wing eating, pasta, and all of that. So I hope that you enjoy that. And again, on behalf of the team and the university and everyone, we want to welcome you and look forward to your return back to North Carolina Central University, and we will ensure your health and safety. God bless you. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, and I hope everyone is well. I just have one slide, so I will be very quick. This is all about game day, and I know many of you who support your fellow student athletes and our coaches and all are very appreciative of that. And so we're doing, I guess, can they see me, Clem? Mr. Clem? Okay. And I'm hoping that we will have some sort of a season this year. Of course, we are planning for 4 different scenarios. One is football and volleyball and all those with fans in the stands. Scenarios with fans at social distancing in the stands. One with a regular attendance, which I know that seems very far-fetched at this point, the way things are going. But the last one, and hopefully this is not the case, with no fans. And so we have been diligently planning with our sister institutions as well as the MEAC institutions to make sure that our student athletes return. They are very safe, and we keep them healthy throughout the entire time. So just a few things on the slide before you. We will, of course, adhere to all federal, state, City of Durham, and university system, NCCU, as well as MEAC guidelines in terms of welcoming fans to the venue. And again, this is all depending upon what the City of Durham ordinance is at the time, what is the state, what phase are we in with regards to how many people can gather in outdoor as well as indoor venues. All the guidelines will be adhered to in terms of university requirements, state requirements with regards to wearing masks. So we all may have to wear masks during the time of the games. We are looking at temperature screening for fans coming into the stadium, as well as asking those questions in terms of pre-screening questionnaires. We're also going to make sure that there's signage, plenty of signage all throughout the stadium and the arena with regards to knowing how to enter the gym or the stadium and how to exit. We will also have signage posted throughout with regards to concessions, sanitation stations, and so forth. We may look at, for concessions, making sure that it's cash, it's credit card or cashless, so that we can limit the amount of touch points between the fans and the vendors. Right now, we are planning for social distancing in the stadium, which means we can only have about 28% of the stadium capacity. That is approximately about 2,700 students in the stadium and about 213 on the track. So as you can see, those two diagrams are very small, but it's kind of a diagram of what it would look like with social distancing. Of course, if there are families, if your parents decide to come to the game, we would just need to know that, because of course you all at that point you may have to social distance because you've been separated and apart. But there are some fans that have families that we will not have to social distance them in the stands. We will be working with the SGA, SAB, Student Affairs to determine the number of students that we can allow to come to the game based on that social distancing. In the actual section that you all sit most of the time, normally we can get, and I'm looking at the capacity, there's about 436 seats in the stadium, in the stands in your section. Well, if we have to social distance, that would only equate to 145 seats. And so we definitely want to make sure we look at other sections in the stadium to see so that we can maximize student attendance, but based on that social distancing to keep you all safe. That is about all that we have for right now. We're continuing to plan. We will put out our game day operations manual as soon as we can confirm with our MEAC peers with regards to protocols for game day. All student athletes will be tested. They will be tested weekly, as well as game day personnel. Right now, we are not allowing visiting bands or cheerleaders to attend any of our home games. We are still working with Mr. Thurman and also with Ms. Luann in terms of making sure that if the band and the cheerleaders are to participate, that they are safe and everyone around them is safe. So that is my little presentation, my one slide. I'm excited about the fall, excited to see you all. But again, we're going to ensure that your health and safety remains a priority. Thank you.
Okay, so now we will go to the piece. Here are a few submitted questions and answers that have been previously submitted beforehand of the town hall. So some of you may be asking, will we have a week of welcome and training day? Yes. Please save the date for our Eagle Fest. It's the newly named Week of Welcome. Eagle Fest will run from August 10th to the 23rd and will feature a combination of in-person and virtual events, including training day. Will there be a marching band camp, and when will it start? The band will have some virtual instruction in early August and a short in-person mini camp upon students' return. How will organizations that perform on campus meet for practices? What are the terms regarding this? So organizations will need to schedule space and continue to abide by social distancing guidelines. Gatherings must be limited to no more than 10 people. So what happens if I do not choose to wear a facial mask? Students will be educated on reasons for the mask, given clear expectations and instructions, and reminded when they forget. Exceptions or accommodations should be made for students with health conditions that make mask wearing difficult and for deaf students via the Office of Student Accessibility Services. Students who still fail to comply will be processed through the university's Code of Conduct. So, how will the Eagle Shuttle operate? So riders of the Eagle Shuttle and other public transportation options must wear a face covering or mask upon entering, avoid touching surfaces, and practicing sufficient distancing. Eagle Shuttle vehicles will be equipped with hand sanitizer dispensers for riders entering the bus. Hand washing or sanitizing is also recommended for the riders after disembarking. What would happen to students that rely on university housing for shelter if COVID forces students to return home? So students experiencing housing insecurity or homelessness are encouraged to register this information with the Office of the Dean of Students. Registering will allow staff to proactively work with students on long-term housing solutions while also providing support in the event of emergencies. For registration details, email the Dean of Students at dos@nccu.edu. And what are the next steps for community service events? So, virtual service activities are being added and updated regularly in the Get Connected portal. Okay, and the biggest question, refunds. Per the University of North Carolina system leadership, NCCU and all UNC system institutions are working to ready the universities to provide in-person instruction within reason, robust on-campus experiences for our students, including housing and dining. At the same time, the UNC system is preparing for the contingencies that COVID-19 crisis may require us to address. Additionally, we cannot predict if and when we may have to alter our housing and dining services. NCCU has put into practice a number of new health and safety protocols over the past 4 months to protect the well-being of our students, faculty, and staff communities. As of today, the university does not plan to issue refunds for housing and dining. However, any updates to this guidance will be communicated to our students.
And Sean, let me add one part to that. For those students who are uncomfortable, and I understand it's probably not the answer a lot of you were looking for, but this is the plan as of today. Students that are uncomfortable with this level of uncertainty, we are extending or have extended the cancellation period for students who currently have a housing contract. Typically that date is June 30th. We have extended that date to July 15th. So I saw there were some questions about that. If you do need to cancel your housing contract, you will have until July 15th to cancel for the fall.
Alrighty, so thank you all for sticking with us this far. We have been trying to keep up with all the questions that have been coming through. There are quite a few questions that we will not be able to answer today just due to the volume. So we will get these questions addressed and make those answers available to everyone once we get through this town hall. But for now, we will go through a few of them. The first set of questions are related to student health. So Dr. Ross Alexander, if you could be ready. One of the questions is, how will you ensure students complete the health screenings? What will be the protocol for seeing doctors on campus for reasons outside of COVID?
So the health screening will populate on your MyEOL on every day, and it will continue to stay there until you answer the question. So it'll be very annoying. And if we start following up because you're not answering, we will also do that as well. As far as accessing the Student Health Center, you still have full access to Student Health Center. However, you will have to complete a a telemedicine triage before you are scheduled an appointment. So you would still call the same number, make your appointment. You will get a triage from one of the providers, and then they will assess you for your appointment.
Another question for you, Dr. Ross Alexander. Is there a link or a form for pre-existing health condition students, or will that be sent out later?
So we will determine the pre-existing conditions based on the same medical health history questionnaire that we have every year. So we're asking every student to complete that and submit that so that we can then determine if there are any underlying conditions. But yes, there is.
The last one for you, Dr. Ross Alexander, we mentioned students with pre-existing conditions will have single occupancy. How is this determined?
So all accommodations are considered through staff, student accessibility services. So if you are an immunocompromised student, we ask that you make sure you submit those documents to staff. Staff will determine the accommodation and then send that information over to housing to complete that accommodation.
And thank you for that, Dr. Ross Alexander. We did get some questions regarding events on campus. I'm just going to answer one for right now. With regards to on-campus events, will speakers and presenters from outside of the campus still be able to be brought in for programs? Yes, in certain situations. It is not an open carte blanche. Everyone can bring a guest speaker on. We will be monitoring that closely through student engagement and leadership. The departments have already given guidelines to limit the number of guest speakers or outside visitors to campus. We strongly encourage everyone to take advantage of the virtual options, WebEx, Zoom, things that you've already been engaging with. Most of the spaces in the student union and other spaces on campus have video and conferencing capabilities. We suggest everyone try to take advantage of that. But our student engagement and leadership staff will be available to assist students as they plan their events and activities. The next section.
Can you answer real quickly about the event pass? I saw there were a couple questions on that.
Event pass. I don't have any of those. Oh, how do we get the event pass? Okay, the event pass, it's literally, you can go to whatever app store you have and you would need to look up Engage Event Pass. Let me do that while I'm here. It's been a while since I've had to do that. Make sure I get you the right information. Engage. No, I'm sorry. It's Campus Labs. There you go. Campus Labs. Oh, I can't remember. Yep. If you do go to your app store and get Campus Labs, it will take you there and you will find the event pass. And it looks like this. You will need that event pass. So what will happen is you will go in, make sure you have the event pass, and then you will be able to download or save your event pass, your custom event pass. It'll give you your own specific QR code, and you'll be able to upload that to your wallet on your phone. You will need to bring that with you, and then when you come to the events, we will scan your event pass to get you into the events and activities. Some folks have gotten smart and have taken screenshots of their event pass. Screenshots will not work. The system is smart enough where you need to have the actual event pass open. You can also, I believe, we'll get more information. I want to make sure I'm not telling you all the wrong information, but we'll make sure we provide links to that information to Engage so you can get all this information and learn how to use your event pass. Moving on, going to the academic affairs. So Dr. Anderson, if you could get ready. We've got quite a few questions and we most likely need to do another town hall just for academic affairs. So the first question we'll go to is, will students be given the opportunity to distance learn if they do not feel safe on campus?
The answer to that is yes. As I indicated, we're going to have at least 50% of our classes online. So if you have registered already, check schedule maybe by the end of next week to see if those classes are online, and then choose an online session if that works for you.
Okay. One question that's come up, is it possible to stay home during COVID-19 and still retain our fall classes?
Theoretically, yes, you can do that by registering for all the online sections of classes. I encourage you, however, to work closely with your advisor if you make changes to your schedule, because you don't want to negatively impact your time to graduation. It may be that you can switch out some spring semester classes and take them online in the fall and then switch the others out. Work closely with your advisor as you're considering changes to your schedule based on whether or not a class is online or face-to-face or hybrid.
Okay, Dr. Anderson, last question for you. When will we know which classes are online, hybrid, or face-to-face? Will NCCU make changes to the course catalog to indicate this, or will teachers individually tell their students? If it is the latter situation, when will this happen?
Okay. So June 15th was deadline for all deans to notify the Office of e-learning, I think it was, about courses that are moving to the new format. So I would say that by the end of next week, because I think the bills are going out on July 6th or 7th, so everything will be populated before then.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Anderson. Moving on to a couple of questions for residential life. I will take the one. It says, since they're not getting refunds in the event that we go online again, a lot of students are deciding not to stay on campus. How do we cancel our housing? Dr. Coleman touched on that. The cancellation deadline has been extended to July 15th. You can contact Residential Life about canceling your housing for the fall semester. Another good question, are we allowed to leave campus during the weekend? So, this is not a jail. We are definitely, you're free to move about, but we do need everyone to do their part to prevent the spread of COVID-19. If you choose to go off campus or even around on campus, please make sure you're using your face masks. Please make sure you're protecting yourself. The last thing we want is to have to deal with another outbreak or deal with an outbreak on campus and have to send folks home. And the best way we can prevent that from happening is if everyone protects themselves. And the last set of questions we're going to go through, Mr. Tim Moore, some business and auxiliary questions for you regarding food services. Is an order online and pickup option available?
Not at this time, but we are working on that, and that will hopefully be completed before during the course of the semester. So we hope to be able to announce that. But our plan is to try to have that in place before the end of this semester.
All right. Will you allow students to have 2 carry-out containers rather than eating in the cafeteria?
Well, I think right now, our focus now is ensuring that our students get ample food. And of course, our preference would be obviously the 1 carry-out. But if that doesn't support the student receiving ample food, then we'll have to make an adjustment, whether it be a larger container or possibly allow for an additional container. I did mention to the person that asked the question that we will revisit that and be prepared to give a more concrete answer. But our goal and focus will be making sure the student receive ample food, and there's a couple ways we can do that.
the last question, Mr. Moore, and this will be the last question for the night, the good old swipes question. If you're a student and don't have a meal plan, can someone else still swipe you in?
Yes, sir. So the students with a meal plan have, it's two different students that have meal plans. One is a student with a residential meal plan, and the residential meal plan is loaded up with meal swipes that's really geared just for them, for him or her. But in addition to that, that student meal plan has what we call flex dollars on them. And so that person who is a residential meal plan patron, can use his or her flex dollars to purchase a meal for that person to allow that person to eat in the dining. And then we have what we call a commuter student. A commuter student have what we call a block plan, and block plans don't have that kind of restriction. So if the commuter student have a block plan, wants to swipe that person in, then yes, that person can do that.
Okay, and actually, I've just gotten to go ahead to take a couple of more questions. Let's see. Just want to make sure I can answer this. Okay, so one of the questions, this is a residential life question. The person wrote, I know it said only one person allowed to move students in. My daughter is a freshman and we're coming from 6 hours away, and I was going to need at least one person to assist me. I cannot move her in by myself. Is there any way you can allow 2 people? I think the move process will go a lot faster to allow 2 people. Allowing one person, especially if it's a middle-aged female as myself, I think is a bit unrealistic. Unfortunately, for safety and to reduce the spread of the COVID virus, we cannot allow more than one person in at a time. That would go against, the state and local guidelines for the number of people congregating in one space at this time. If something changes by the time move-in gets here, we'll adapt to that. But as of right now, we are still trying to limit the number of people in the residence halls in the spaces. We do allow 2 hours time for the move-in, and again, that's to move in. I know we may want to get the room perfect for our student when they get here, but we may have to accept just getting them in. If you need a little extra time, we may be able to accommodate you, but in the safety for all students, unfortunately, we have to limit everything to one student at a time. Moving on to another question.
Let's take one on, I saw a couple about George Street. Just to clarify, there was a question, if George Street, and I just had it, I lost it, about George Street being open if the student needs to move in early. I think it said, will it be ready? George Street will be ready. It will not be available for any early move-in. If you're a student that, if you're in a special population or there's some special circumstance, and we can work with you through residential life and our Dean of Students office. But no one will be able to move into George Street before August 17th, because that is one of the new projects, and that is the date that we have set. And I see there were a couple questions about move-in appointments. So Mr. Clem, you said that information will be coming next week about the process?
That is correct. We are finalizing plans this week, and the information will be going out to students next week. If you already have your housing application or have already signed, you'll get that information through the THD website, but we will also be sending out emails to residential students as well.
Okay. And then I saw there were a couple questions about student athletes. Ingrid, if you're still on, there were questions about where does the earliest student athletes can move in, and can student athletes move in early?
Okay. So we have a schedule for all of our student athletes by teams. Football will be moving back to Durham and campus next week in different groups over the next 3 weeks. Volleyball will be coming in the first week of August, and then all of the other student athletes from other sports will move in according to the time that they submit to Residential Life and Housing for an appointment to move in. So the only 2 teams that will move in prior to August 10th will be football and volleyball.
Oh, I need to unmute myself. At this time, that will conclude our question and answer. Again, we have received many of your questions. Our director of marketing was trying to respond to as many questions as possible in the chat. Some other questions we have documented. We are going to do everything we can to get all of these questions to the appropriate persons and have them respond with the official responses so that we can get those posted online back to everyone as quickly as possible. At this time, I will turn things back over to the Student Government Association President, Mr. Keyshawn Coleman.
So thank you once again, Eagles, for joining us on this evening. We hope tonight has provided much clarity and reassurance in regards to the fall semester here at NCCU. If you missed any of the responses and questions, please remember that this will be posted on the NCCU Life's YouTube page. If we did not get the chance to get to your question, please submit them to NCCU Life at nccu.edu, and we will respond in a timely manner. Please continue to stay safe and be vigilant in protecting the nest. Thank you and have a great evening.